Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to transform really complex bodies of knowledge into clear, structured roadmaps.
Mm-hmm.
And today, we are undertaking a truly massive task. We're going to try and chart the comprehensive path to awakening the Dhamma as taught by the historical Buddha.
It's a big one.
Yeah, and we're not just skimming the surface here. We are synthesizing ancient, detailed instructions right from the core source materials, the Nikayas.
Right.
We want to answer those really urgent questions, like what is the mechanical cause of suffering? What does daily practice actually look like? And maybe most importantly, how accessible is this for someone who isn't a monk, for a dedicated lay practitioner?
That is absolutely our mission today. We're pulling excerpts from the major collections, the Samyutta Nikaya, the Connected Discourses, and the Digha Nikaya, the Long Discourses.
Which are so essential for that structural understanding.
Exactly. These texts, they were compiled to preserve the Buddha's teachings, and they offer a precise, really a step-by-step methodology. So our aim is to provide you, the listener, with a coherent and detailed roadmap, kind of a shortcut to understanding the heart of this doctrine, from the foundational philosophy all the way to the final stages of realization.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we even get to the practice, the how-to, we need to understand the initial premise. What is the fundamental essence of the path laid out in these ancient texts?
Yeah.
Where does this entire massive system, the structure of reality itself, where does it all begin?
It begins with a diagnosis. The entire structure of the teaching, the Dhamma, is centered entirely around the Four Noble Truths.
Okay.
Our sources, they just confirm their centrality again and again. They are the bedrock, and they're often stated as being present either directly or indirectly in every single teaching.
So they're the framework for everything.
They're the framework for experience and liberation. You have the truth of suffering, the truth of the origin of suffering, the truth of the cessation of suffering, and finally, the truth of the practice leading to that cessation.
Which is the Noble Eightfold Path.
Which is the Noble Eightfold Path, exactly.
That sounds, I don't know, almost deceptively simple. You hear those four things and think, okay, got it. But if we want to achieve liberation, we have to first truly understand the nature of suffering, or dukkha. And the texts are incredibly specific here, aren't they? They move beyond just, general unhappiness or having a bad day. They define suffering as something internal, a structural reality.
Absolutely. It's not about an external event. It's about what we cling to. The source material is, it's totally unequivocal. It states flat out, the 5 grasping aggregates are suffering.
The 5 grasping aggregates. So that word grasping is key.
It's everything. If you really want to define dukkha, you have to understand these 5 aggregates of clinging. These are the components we mistake for a stable, enduring self.
And what are they exactly? Can we break them down?
Of course. First, you have form, or rupa. This is the easy one. It's the physical body, materiality itself, anything physical.
Okay. My body is form.
Right. Then there's feeling, vedana. And this is just the simple tone of an experience. Is it pleasant? Is it painful? Or is it just neutral?
Not the emotion, just the raw data of like, dislike, or meh.
Exactly, the raw data. Third is perception, Sanya. This is recognition. It's naming, categorizing things. That's a tree, that's a microphone.
The labeling function of the mind.
Then fourth, we have choices, Thankara. This is a bit more complex. It's our mental formations, volitional activities, intentions, conditioning. It's the part of the mind that reacts and creates habits.
So all our impulses and reactions.
Right. And finally, number 5 is consciousness, or vinya. This is just the simple awareness or knowing of an object, the light of awareness that shines on the other 4.
So the aggregates are just the building blocks of our moment-to-moment experience. They're the elements that make up what we call me. The problem, as you said, isn't that these 5 things exist.
No, not all.
It's the grasping, it's the craving that fastens itself onto them.
Precisely. Grasping is the mechanism. It's what keeps the whole cycle running. The ultimate origin of suffering is identified so explicitly in the texts. It's the craving that leads to future lives, mixed up with relishing and greed.
And this isn't just one flat concept of desire, is it? It's broken down even further.
It is. It's categorized into 3 pervasive types of craving that are constantly feeding this cycle of rebirth and suffering.
Okay, let's break down those 3, because I think understanding them is the key to identifying the fuel source for all our distress.
The first one is the most familiar. It's craving for sensual pleasures, or kamatansha. This is just the desire for gratification through the five senses, sights, sounds, tastes, smells, touches. Pretty straightforward.
Wanting things to feel good, basically.
The second one, though, is maybe more profound. It's craving for continued existence, bhavatan. This is that deep, fundamental drive to be, to continue existing, to perpetuate the self and its experiences. It often shows up as a belief in permanence or some kind of eternal soul.
The desire to just keep going.
Yes. And the third type is the flip side of that coin.
Right.
It's craving to end existence, vibhavatasha. This is the desire for annihilation, the wish for the complete cessation of self when suffering becomes too great. It's the desire to escape being by becoming nothing.
Wow. So you're trapped between wanting to exist forever and wanting to not exist at all.
And all three of these cravings, the texts say, are rooted in relishing the aggregates and greed. They are the direct cause of continued existence. And existing, by its very nature, falls into suffering. Why? Because death, old age, and sickness inevitably come to anything that is born.
So the moment we claim any of those five aggregates, this body, this feeling, this consciousness, as mine or myself,
You're signing up for pain.
we're essentially signing up for guaranteed pain when they change or perish, which they will.
And that observation takes us straight to the crucial insight, the realization that forms the basis of right understanding. It's the nature of conditionality, defined by impermanence, anicca, and not self, anatta. Everything that arises, including all five of those aggregates, is conditioned, it's suffering, and it is perishable. There is nothing within that fivefold structure that is stable enough to be owned or identified with forever.
So this is where the philosophy, the theory, transitions directly into the meditative practice. If everything is impermanent, how do we apply this understanding to the aggregates in a way that it actually creates a permanent shift?
It's a continuous internal investigation. The core practice, especially for getting that first definitive stage of awakening stream entry, it requires realizing this deep truth experientially.
Not just thinking about it.
No, seeing it. Seeing all form, all feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness, whether it's past, future, or present, internal or external, coarse or subtle, seeing it with right understanding, which leads to this internal declaration. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself.
That formula is the antidote to the craving. It's like it systematically dismantles that identity view. Because if I can acknowledge that the very consciousness I use to perceive myself is itself conditioned and changing, well then where exactly is the self located?
It's the escape from grasping. When a practitioner truly sees the impermanence, the perishing nature of these aggregates, and because of that seeing, they give up the sorrow, the lamentation, the pain, the sadness, and distress. The texts say they live happily. The practitioner is described as being quenched in that respect. They've withdrawn all that energy they were previously investing in defending a phantom self. What's fascinating here is the deep connection drawn between consciousness, vignat, and self-identity. So many people, they mistake consciousness, that clear knowing, as the eternal soul or self.
It feels like the most me part of me.
Of course it does, but the sources explicitly warn against this mistake. If we regard consciousness as self, that very self is born, it decays, and it perishes, just like the body. And since the object of your attachment consciousness is unstable, clinging to it inevitably gives rise to sorrow, lamentation, and distress. The entire wisdom component of the path is aimed at severing this toxic identification.
So if the aggregates describe the structure of suffering and impermanence describes the nature of reality, then dependent origination paikasupada is the mechanism.
Right.
It's the explanation for how this whole clockwork machine starts and keeps running, year after year, lifetime after lifetime.
It's the ultimate spiritual physics equation. It truly is. It's the detailed chain of causality that the Buddha realized upon awakening, and it links phenomena across time.
Can you walk us through the forward sequence? How does it build?
The forward sequence shows how ignorance, avijja, not seeing reality clearly, is a necessary condition for volitional choices, Sakura.
Okay.
Those choices are a condition for consciousness to arise in a certain way. That consciousness is a condition for name and form, namarupa, which is basically mind and body, and so on, leading inexorably to the six sense bases: contact, feeling, craving, grasping, existence, birth, old age, death, sorrow, and the entire mass of suffering.
It paints a very compelling, if sobering picture. The entire mass of suffering we experience right now is the direct, necessary consequence of a chain that began with ignorance, with just not seeing the aggregates as impermanent.
Precisely. And the beauty of it is that the reverse sequence of the chain reveals the solution, the path to cessation.
How does that work?
Well, the utter cessation of that initial instigation, the cessation of ignorance, leads to the cessation of choices. And the cessation of choices leads to the cessation of consciousness and so forth, all the way down the line.
Which leads directly to the cessation of birth, old age, death, and thus the cessation of suffering.
You eliminate the condition and you eliminate the result. It's a perfect system. And this intricate dependence, it provides the intellectual justification for the rigorous practice we're about to discuss.
So if dependent origination shows us the precise clockwork mechanism of suffering, the question becomes, how do we systematically stop the gears? And that's where the systemic treatment plan, the fourth noble truth, the Noble Eightfold Path, comes in.
The Noble Eightfold Path is indeed the detailed practice that leads to the cessation of suffering. It is a systematic, integrated training, and it's often grouped into 3 higher trainings.
The wisdom section, the ethical conduct section, and the concentration section.
Exactly.
And this structure is so critical because it tells you, the listener, that this is not just philosophical debate. It's not just sitting on a cushion and meditating. It has to be an integrated daily way of life.
Absolutely. And the texts really emphasize progression. It is designed to be sequential, where success in the initial factors enables the later, deeper factors to arise. You can trace the movement from intellectual conviction to determined action, and then finally to internal stabilization.
Okay, walk us through that sequence. Let's focus on how one factor naturally feeds into the next, as described in the sources.
It all begins with the wisdom section. Right view, samadhi, is the foundational understanding. It's the comprehension of the 4 noble truths and dependent origination that we just talked about.
So it's the intellectual agreement that the system is correct. This is the first step.
Yeah.
Just seeing the world as conditioned and impermanent.
Yes. And once that view is accepted, it must change one's internal world.
It has to.
Right view then guides right thought. Sammasankappa. This is the determination to live your life following this view. It means you determine to give up intentions rooted in sensuality, malice, and cruelty.
And instead you cultivate.
You cultivate intentions of renunciation, goodwill, and harmlessness. And this commitment, this change in thought, naturally leads you right into the ethical conduct section.
Which establishes the moral bedrock for absolutely everything that follows.
Precisely. The ethical factors are essential stabilizers. So you have right speech, samapako, which means avoiding lying, harsh speech, divisive speech or slander, and just frivolous talk.
Then right action.
Right action, samakamanta, means refraining from 3 things: killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct.
And finally, right livelihood.
Right livelihood, samageva, demands that you don't earn a living in a way that causes harm. So no trading in weapons, living beings, meat, intoxicants, or poisons. These 3 factors together ensure that you're not creating ongoing causes for future regret or suffering.
That sets the stage, a life lived without causing harm, without accumulating this kind of moral debt.
Yeah.
So how do we transition from that external ethical discipline to the internal mental discipline?
Well, that's where the concentration section begins, and it's fueled by the clarity you've established in the ethical conduct factors. The first of these is right effort, samavayama.
Right.
This is the energetic, sustained striving to prevent unskillful qualities from arising, to abandon those that have already arisen, to arouse skillful qualities that haven't arisen yet, and to maintain the skillful qualities that are already there.
It's like a constant proactive mental hygiene.
It really is, and this effort, this constant work, it feeds the central practice of awareness.
Which is
Right.
mindfulness.
Right, mindfulness, samasati, yes. This is the continuous, non-judgmental awareness of the body, feelings, mind, and principles or objects of mind. This is that moment-to-moment presence that stabilizes the mind.
And when you have right effort and right mindfulness working together.
When they're maintained, they naturally lead to the culmination of the path. Right immersion, samasamadhi. And this is defined as achieving the deep mental absorptions, or jhana, which we will definitely explore in detail soon. Collectively, these 8 factors are the systemic path.
The result of developing this systematic path is framed with that wonderful analogy. It suggests that following the NEP isn't some struggle against the current, but it's more like aligning yourself with the natural flow of reality.
It is one of the most reassuring images in the texts. Developing the Noble Eightfold Path causes the practitioner, whether they're a mendicant or a dedicated householder, to slant, slope, and incline to extinguishment. Just as the great Ganges River naturally slants toward the east and eventually flows into the ocean, The effort becomes self-sustaining. The path becomes your destiny.
But that alignment requires specific conditions, right? It's not automatic. What are the prerequisites or the necessary environment for the path to naturally incline us towards extinguishment?
The development of the path, the texts say, must rely on seclusion, viveka, fading away, vireka, and cessation, nirodha, and it must ultimately ripen as letting go, vasaga.
Can you break those down? What is seclusion?
Seclusion means removing yourself from intense distraction and unskillful company. Fading away is the diminishing of attachment and craving. Cessation is the stopping of that mental activity that's rooted in craving.
So if the practitioner adheres to this structure,
Then the path culminates in the definitive removal of the three roots of all evil: greed, hate, and delusion.
and critically, this path addresses the three great searches that drive so much of human suffering. What are those searches?
Well, we spoke of the cravings, but the searches are the external manifestation of those cravings. They are the search for sensual pleasures, the search for continued existence, that drive for identity and perpetual becoming, and sometimes even the search for a spiritual path that's incorrect or leads nowhere.
And by eliminating greed, hate, and delusion, the path eliminates the very impetus to search blindly.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. The path isn't just abstract philosophy or intense meditation. It's an ecosystem where ethical conduct, that second part, leads directly to the mental stability you need for deep immersion, the third part. We often overlook just how critical that moral foundation is.
It is the absolute prerequisite. It's the linchpin that connects your conduct to your concentration. I mean, consider the negative chain reaction. An unethical person destroys the vital condition for having no regrets of the Paisara.
Right, because your conscience is bothering you.
Exactly. When you have regrets, your conscience is troubled, and that remorse destroys the condition for joy. No joy means no rapture. No rapture means no tranquility, passaddhi, and without tranquility, deep immersion, samadhi, is simply inaccessible.
So essentially, by being morally upright, by practicing right speech, action, and livelihood, we're actively creating an internal environment that's free from guilt and disturbance. And that's the only ground stable enough for meditation to actually flourish.
That's it. The source material instructs practitioners to be restrained in the ethical codes, to conduct themselves well, and crucially, to see danger even in the slightest fault. They have to keep the rules they've undertaken, whether it's the lay precepts or the full monastic codes.
Without that foundation of purity, the mind will just be constantly troubled by the memory of misdeeds, making unification impossible.
It's not just about being good for its own sake. It is a vital, self-serving practice for mental liberation.
That makes perfect sense. The path is so deeply logical. Clean up your external house so your internal house can finally settle down. Now that we understand the philosophical why and the structural what, let's move into the day-to-day work. What does the practice look like on the ground?
The overarching instruction for the practitioner is simply to live mindful and aware. This state of continuous presence is cultivated primarily through the development of the 4 kinds of mindfulness, or satipatthana. This is taught as the direct path to purification and liberation.
The 4 kinds of mindfulness: body, feelings, mind, and principles. This is really the heart of the meditative training, and we should go into some depth on how the texts describe this.
Yes. The practitioner is instructed to observe the body, or feelings, or the mind, or principles as they arise, and to maintain a mindset that is keen, aware, and mindful, rid of covetousness and displeasure for the world.
So this isn't just casual observation, it's vigilant and dispassionate.
Very much so.
Let's start with the body, kainopassana, which is the most tangible object of awareness. The breathing practice, anapanasati, is detailed with really striking precision in the sources.
The instructions are meticulous. The practice begins with the practitioner sitting down, often cross-legged, setting the body straight, and establishing mindfulness right there at the point of awareness, maybe the nose or the chest. And the first step is simply knowing.
Knowing what?
Knowing when you're breathing in heavily, a long breath, or lightly, a short breath, and knowing when you're breathing out heavily or lightly, just that.
That sounds like simple observation, but the instructions go deeper, right?
Yeah.
Into actively using the breath to refine the experience.
They do. The practitioner trains in a series of steps. They think, I'll breathe in experiencing the whole body, and I'll breathe out experiencing the whole body. This directs your full attention to the physical sensation of the breath throughout your entire system.
And the next step?
The next crucial step is conditioning the mind to regulate itself. I'll breathe in, stilling physical processes. and I'll breathe out, stilling physical processes. So here you're using the breath as a tool for profound physical and mental settling. The texts confirm that the breath is explicitly taught as a certain aspect of the body.
So we're using the breath not just as an anchor for attention, but as a lever to actively calm the deepest layers of physical agitation. What other aspects of the body are brought into awareness?
Beyond the breath, the practitioner has to develop awareness of postures. This means knowing, with a clear and distinct mindfulness, when you're walking, when you're standing, when you're sitting, or when you're lying down, whatever posture the body is in.
It sounds so simple, but it breaks that unconscious habit of just drifting through life.
Yeah.
The body becomes an object of observation, not the observer.
Exactly. And this intense awareness extends even into the most mundane, moment-to-moment actions of daily life.
Like what?
The training requires situational awareness, sampajanya, in nearly every activity. When going out and coming back, when looking ahead and looking aside, when bending and extending your limbs.
Wow.
And even in processes like bearing robes for the monastics, eating, drinking, urinating, defecating, speaking, and even keeping silent.
This detailed, unrelenting attention, what is its purpose? It seems like a lot.
It serves a profound purpose. It helps the practitioner give up memories and thoughts of the lay life. By immersing your awareness entirely in the present task, the mind becomes internally stilled and unified. This active, moment-by-moment grounding is essential.
It sounds like an overwhelming degree of scrutiny, but maybe that very intensity is the point. It leaves no room for the mind to wander off into craving. This leads us directly back to the practical necessity of sense restraint.
Sense restraint is a critical daily practice. It's maybe the most immediate preventative discipline. It acts as the gatekeeper. The core instruction is this. When knowing an idea with the mind or seeing a sight with the eye, one must not get caught up in the features and details.
Which is the exact opposite of what we do in modern life. We are rewarded for getting caught up in the details, scrolling, clicking, judging, analyzing. What does it mean practically to not get caught up in the features?
It means acknowledging the raw sensory input without indulging in the conceptual elaboration, the proliferation, the narrative construction that follows.
Can you give an example?
Sure. When seeing a beautiful sight, the untrained mind immediately jumps to, I want that, I need to possess that, I want to stay here forever. The disciplined mind simply notes, there is a sight. There is feeling born of contact with the sight. It avoids fixation on the features that spark desire or the details that provoke displeasure.
And if we fail to practice this restraint, what are the immediate consequences for the practitioner?
The consequences are immediate and they are detrimental to the entire path. If the faculty of sight or mind or any other sense door is left unrestrained, bad, unskillful qualities of covetousness and displeasure just become overwhelming.
They flood the mind.
They flood the mind and destroy any possibility of immersion. But conversely, practicing restraint protects that faculty, and the result is immediate gratification. The practitioner experiences an unsullied bliss inside themselves.
So sense restraint is not austere denial. It's a direct path to profound internal stability and pleasure, which you can feel here and now.
Exactly.
So sense restraint and continuous mindfulness of the body are the necessary practices to stabilize the mind and purify the ethical ground. Once the mind is purified, stable, and unified, the texts instruct the practitioner to move into the profound stages of concentration, or jhana, the deep mental absorptions.
And the sources stress that developing immersion samadhi is key because a practitioner who has immersion truly understands.
So what are the jhanas?
The jhanas are a progressive refinement of consciousness. You move through deeper and deeper states of focus and tranquility, and each state is finer than the previous one. They're attained by abandoning the 5 hindrances: sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and regret, and doubt.
Okay, let's delineate the factors of each absorption. This is crucial detail. How does the first absorption differ from just ordinary concentration?
The first absorption is characterized by being secluded from sensual qualities and secluded from unskillful mental qualities. It's marked by 2 factors that anchor the mind: the initial placement of the mind, vitakka, and sustained connection with the object, vigara.
And what does it feel like?
The experience is one of intense rapture, piti, and bliss, sukha, born of that very seclusion. The meditator is deeply focused, but there's still a dynamic, effortful aspect of placing and keeping the mind connected.
So a focused joy, but still with some cognitive effort. How does the practitioner deepen this into the second absorption?
The second absorption is achieved when that initial placement and sustained connection are stilled. They're seen as coarse, and therefore you drop them. The mind achieves internal clarity and becomes unified.
So the effort drops away.
The effort drops away. The rapture and bliss remain, but they are now born of immersion itself rather than of the initial seclusion. And the pleasure here is defined by the text as finer than that of the first, because that mental effort has subsided.
The progression seems to move from this dynamic joy toward a more tranquil stability.
Exactly. In the third absorption, the practitioner lets go of the intense rapture, the piti, which is still a form of excitement. They meditate with equanimity, they remain mindful and aware, and they personally experience bliss, sukha. The noble ones declare this state. Equanimous and mindful, one meditates in bliss.
So the focus shifts away from the intense, joyful excitement toward this stable, abiding serenity.
Yes. And the final stage of form absorption.
The fourth.
The fourth absorption is the ultimate refinement of form-based concentration. The practitioner gives up both pleasure and pain, ending all former happiness and sadness. It is a state without pleasure or pain, marked by pure equanimity and mindfulness.
And what happens to the body?
The physical process itself, the breath, is stilled. It becomes so subtle it's barely perceptible. Achieving this level of sustained, unified immersion is what gives the meditator the power to develop the higher knowledges and attain complete freedom.
The path clearly requires tremendous, consistent energy to fight distraction and dullness, which are the natural enemies of this deep work. What are the main obstacles the texts highlight?
The obstacles are often summarized by the three fires: greed, hate, and delusion. They must be given up and rejected because they are the cause of bad rebirths. Therefore, a constant active energy arousal is necessary. This is the essence of right effort.
How does the practitioner maintain that high level of energy without just burning out?
Well, the practitioner must rouse up energy for attaining the unattained, achieving the unachieved, and realizing the unrealized. The texts stress the need for preemptive, continuous action.
So it's not just during formal meditation.
Not at all. This effort is required before starting work, after finishing work, or even before embarking on a journey. The dedication has to be total, without lapse, constantly checking the mind for the intrusion of unskillful states.
Beyond just fighting the negative, the practitioner also has to proactively cultivate the positive. This brings us to the immense practice of the divine abodes, the Brahmaviharas.
Cultivating these four states is essential for purifying the heart and expanding one's perspective beyond the self. These are freedom through loving kindness, metta, compassion, karuna, appreciative rejoicing, mudita, and equanimity, upekkar.
And the sources emphasize their precise function, don't they?
They do. The heart's release by compassion, for instance, is the direct escape from thoughts of harming others. When you genuinely feel compassion for suffering beings, the urge to malice and cruelty just vanishes.
And rejoicing.
Similarly, the heart's release by rejoicing, that sympathetic joy in the happiness of others, is the escape from discontent and envy.
That is a wonderful insight into their therapeutic value. They're not just nice feelings, they are targeted antidotes to specific defilements.
Exactly. They have immediate benefits, particularly the cultivation of love. A mind saturated with loving kindness is promised specific, tangible results in this very life. Sleeping at ease, waking happily, deities protecting the practitioner, and the mind quickly entering deep immersion. This raises an important question. We have just detailed an extremely rigorous full-time program. Ethical code, sense restraint, 4 stages of absorption. How do these intensive monastic instructions apply to the everyday person trying to balance the spiritual life with conventional reality, with a career, and with family?
That is the perfect transition. The listener needs to know that while the path we've described is strenuous, the goal of spiritual attainment is not exclusively reserved for the full-time monastic. The sources meticulously lay out a path for the householder, rooted firmly in ethical action, right intention, and achievable insight.
The foundational principle for the householder is the moral gravity of intention and action. The texts really validate the significance of intentional deeds, of karma. Intentional deeds are not eliminated without being experienced. Good deeds performed by sentient beings support them in the next world. Good conduct of body, speech, and mind leads directly to favorable outcomes, including rebirth in a heavenly realm. The ethical landscape of a householder's life is their immediate spiritual bank account.
And for lay followers, the moral baseline, the minimum requirement for a favorable trajectory, is established by the 5 precepts.
The 5 precepts are the foundation of lay ethics, the practice of sila. They require refraining from 5 critical actions: killing living creatures, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and consuming intoxicants, specifically beer, wine, and liquor, that lead to heedlessness.
And the benefits of upholding these are presented as immediate and psychological, right?
Yes, immediate. Observing these precepts quells 5 specific fears and enmities, leading to self-assurance in this present life.
How so?
Well, if you consistently refrain from killing, you have no reasonable fear of being killed or harmed in return. If you refrain from stealing, you fear no retaliation for theft, and so on. By eliminating these causes for conflict and regret, the householder establishes an inner sense of security and freedom from blame.
Which, as we discussed, is the vital condition for joy and subsequent stability.
It all connects.
The sources also detail the power of generosity, or dana, as a mechanism for accumulating overflowing merit for lay followers.
Generosity is paramount. Giving wealth that was sought in a principled, legitimate manner accrues great merit, especially when it's given to those who are ethically disciplined or spiritually realized. But the most fascinating aspect is how the intention behind the giving directs the result.
That brings tremendous power back to the conscious mind of the lay practitioner.
Indeed. If a person performs good deeds and gives, and they think, if only when my body breaks up after death, I would be reborn in the company of the long-lived, beautiful, and happy gods who live in fragrant roots, and they settle and stabilize that thought, their heart's wish can succeed because their actions and intentions are pure.
So the intention is the rudder that guides the result.
Precisely. Merit accrues when we support ethical and disciplined practitioners, and that merit can be consciously directed towards a specific, favorable rebirth.
And what about that concept of overflowing merit that nurtures happiness in the present life?
This is achieved by cultivating 4 specific mental factors, often considered a lay equivalent of the earliest stages of the path. These are having unshakable experiential confidence in the Buddha, in the teaching, the Dhamma, and in the community of noble disciples, the Sangha.
The triple gem.
Yes, confidence in the triple gem, combined with having ethical conduct loved by the noble ones, which means fully observing the 5 precepts. These 4 factors nurture happiness in this life and result in a measure of merit so great that, according to the Digha Nikaya, it is more valuable than ruling 16 great countries.
That's incredible. It's an assurance of present and future well-being.
It is.
This leads us to the crucial realization. Can a layperson, bound by a job, family, and a home, actually achieve deep spiritual insight? Or are they just capped at accumulating merit for good rebirth?
The sources explicitly confirm that lay people can, and historically did, achieve stages of awakening. The texts mention the Savaka Sangha, the community of noble disciples, which explicitly includes lay followers who have reached definitive stages.
Okay, let's focus on the first irreversible milestone, the stream enterer, or Sotapanna. This is the moment the disciple enters the stream, leading directly to liberation. How is this defined precisely?
Achieving stream entry is the irreversible crossing of the spiritual current. A noble disciple, lay, or monastic, achieves this when they truly understand the mechanism of the 5 grasping aggregates.
Their origin, their ending.
Their origin, their ending, the gratification found in them, the drawback of clinging to them, and the ultimate escape from them. And this understanding is not conceptual, it's direct experience.
And what are the specific permanent results of that profound understanding? What changes forever in the stream enterer?
They achieve this through what the texts call the mirror of the teaching. They have permanently eliminated 3 specific fetters, or samyajana, that bind beings to the cycle of suffering.
Okay, let's list those 3 fetters, as they are the permanent guarantees of success.
First, they end identity view, sakayadihi, the mistaken belief that any of the aggregates constitute a permanent independent self. That's gone forever.
Right.
Second, they end doubt, vicikiccha, about the path and the teacher. This doubt is replaced by unshakable experiential confidence in the triple gem.
And the third?
Third, they end insistence on rules and rituals, silabata paramasa, as the sole path to freedom. They understand that ethical conduct is necessary, but true liberation requires insight, not just ritual performance.
So the stream enterer has permanently changed their worldview, banished doubt, and has that unmarred, unbroken ethical conduct we discussed. What is the ultimate benefit of this achievement?
The immense guaranteed benefit is twofold. They are not liable to be reborn in the underworld and bound for awakening.
Wow.
They are exempt from rebirth in the lower realms, hell, the animal realm, and the ghost realm, and they are guaranteed to achieve arahantship, full enlightenment, within a maximum of 7 more human rebirths. They are on a fixed spiritual trajectory.
That is a staggering assurance for the lay practitioner. Are there other stages available to the householder before full monastic abandonment of the world?
Yes. Beyond the stream enterer, there is the once returner, Sakadagami. This person has ended the same three fetters, but has also significantly weakened the remaining roots of suffering: greed, hate, and delusion.
And there were examples of this in the texts.
Oh, yes. The sources note famous examples, like the wealthy householder Sudatta, known as Anthapitsika, who achieved this stage. Once returners come back to this world only one more time, and then they make an end of suffering.
And there is also that interesting category of the follower of teachings, the person who hasn't quite reached that irreversible stream entry yet.
Right. A follower of teachings is someone who accepts the teachings after deliberating them with wisdom, and they are rigorously practicing the path. They have arrived at surety in the right way, and crucially, the texts assert they cannot die without realizing the fruit of stream entry.
So they're safe.
They are already exempt from the places of loss. This provides assurance even to those dedicated practitioners who are still early in their journey but are devoted to developing the 5 spiritual faculties: faith, energy, mindfulness, immersion, and wisdom.
And the final, ultimate goal, achieved by the perfected one, the arahant.
The arahant is defined by having nothing before or after or even in between. They have thrown off the human yoke, the bonds of this world, and they've slipped out of the heavenly yoke, which is the craving for higher forms of existence.
And their state of mind.
This final state is defined by the absolute knowledge that rebirth is ended, the holy life is complete, and there will be no more future lives. This is the ultimate extinguishment, the cessation of the entire mass of suffering.
Achieving any of these stages requires consistent, dedicated effort, perhaps far beyond what we consider normal discipline. How does the teaching frame the expectation of results for this level of dedication? Is this a long, uncertain path, or can the practitioner expect tangible results quickly?
The path demands unflagging effort. The analogy used in the texts is vivid. Practitioners are urged to be mindful to give up sensual desire as if they were struck by a sword or as if their head was on fire.
So the effort must be extraordinary because the stakes are total freedom.
Exactly. And the timeline for success depends directly on the intensity of that effort and development. Results depend directly on the level of development of the 5 faculties: faith, energy, mindfulness, immersion, and wisdom. Fully developing these faculties leads to the stage of a perfected one, potentially in this very life, while weaker development leads to the lower but still definitive stages like stream enterer.
But the teaching doesn't defer all rewards until the moment of enlightenment. It promises immediate results too.
Critically, yes. The Dhamma is described as apparent in the present life, immediately effective, inviting inspection, relevant, so that sensible people can know it for themselves.
And this includes those immediate experiential benefits we discussed.
The tranquility of having no regrets due to ethical conduct, the unsullied bliss derived from successful sense restraint, and the stable joy found in the early stages of mental immersion. You can verify the path's benefits right now in your own mind. The stability and peace are available today, provided the effort is made.
This deep dive has provided a detailed architectural plan for awakening. We started with the radical philosophical realization of impermanence and the mechanical cause of suffering in the 5 aggregates. We then built through the progressive ethical and mental training of the Noble Eightfold Path. We confirmed the daily practices, especially rigorous sense restraint and deep breath mindfulness, and culminated in the verifiable stages of awakening, accessible even to dedicated lay practitioners.
To summarize for you, the listener, the path is meticulously structured. It's accessible via ethical conduct, generosity, and that core insight into the 5 aggregates. Lay practitioners have definitive milestones, particularly stream entry, which guarantees the end of rebirth in the lower realms.
And the instruction for immediate freedom is clear.
It is. Stability and bliss are apparent in the present life if you extinguish the fires of greed, hate, and delusion through continuous, keen effort.
So what does this all mean? It means the island in the flood is the teaching itself, and we have the map. The ultimate goal, the arahant's freedom, is described not just as happiness or heaven, but as a mind that is quenched, well freed, free from relishing in greed. How might we apply this idea of extinguishing the fires, the small daily cravings and reactions, right here, right now, focusing on that principle of sense restraint, to experience that unsullied bliss of a mind that is momentarily well freed from the noise and narratives of the world? That freedom, the texts assure us, is immediately available.